Okay, welcome to the podcast, and with me today I've got David Whitelaw from Adapt Housing Australia Wide, and we're going to talk about specialist disability housing through the NDIS. It's a mouthful, Dave.
It is. It's huge, but it's a growing area, and we need more people to know about it. So I'd just like to say thanks for the opportunity for letting me talk about it.
No problem.
Welcome.
Like I said, it's a massive mouthful to say, and I suppose we want to dive straight into it first. I'm going to come at this in a point of view where I know nothing about it, so when people get involved, they know how to do it, what to do, why to do it, because I know there's a massive why at the end, which I'm going to tap right at the very end, which is why I think a lot of people should get involved in it, but we'll get to that. But explain what NDIS is to start with, like how people get involved in that.
Yeah. So the NDIS kicked off about 2016 after the Act was developed in 2013. And you talked about not knowing anything about it. There are people that have been in this industry for 3 or 4 years and they don't know about SDA. And as I said, it's a good opportunity to talk about what it is, where it's going, and what we can provide for the local community and what we can provide nationally as well. So SDA is Specialist Disability Accommodation as part of the NDIS, and it's the housing component of people with disabilities. So we're looking at 6% of the population of people with disabilities. 460,000 people in Australia have a disability. 6%, which is about 28,000, are eligible for SDA, and it's extreme impairment or very high support needs gives you the qualification of becoming an SDA participant in the NDIS.
It's a big area, isn't it?
It is huge, and it's growing. However, we talk about 28,000 people, and it's been sort of in fruition for about, as I said, 3 or 4 years, and only probably about less than 10% are actually involved in the unit at the moment, not involved in SDA. So there's a long way to go.
So what would you put that down to? Lack of knowledge, lack of how to do it, I suppose, or
yeah. When it was first introduced, it was based on 28,000 people, and the budget was about 700 million from the government to provide housing. And what they did is that they realised very quickly it's probably not 28,000 people, it's more like 60,000 people required disability housing. And so the government, I think, went into lockdown a little bit, and they made it very hard to get the approval through the NDIS, and that's why it's been very, very slow. It's just starting to open up now, and people are understanding it, people are getting approvals, and we're starting builds.
Is it an easy process for all families to get involved to go through to get that funding to do that?
Good question, and no, it is extremely complex. So someone who is living in an old rundown attic house or fax house, an old government house, it might be community housing, decides that they don't want to live like that anymore. They want to live in an apartment or a duplex or a small house. And what they have to do is they have to identify that they want to live in that residence, and so they go to the local area coordinator, which is Social Futures here. And we do some work with Social Futures as well. They're a good little organisation.
That's in Lismore?
In Lismore, yep. And they have to identify that they need to explore a housing solution. And then some money goes into their NDIS account, and a support coordinator can write a housing solution report tailored for that participant to find a new dwelling. And it could take up to 20 weeks.
Yeah.
It's quite a long and drawn out process. As I said, support coordinators, OTs involved, and of course there has to be a solution at the end, and that's where Adapt Housing comes into it.
And you guys are national.
We are a national organisation. We've got builds happening in South Australia, and there's a fair bit happening in Western Australia. We're working with some people, obviously Queensland and New South Wales, where we're based at the moment. And but even in New South Wales, we've got builds at the moment between Cairns and Newcastle, and some stuff in the pipeline in South Australia and Victoria.
And how are we going local? Have we got stuff happening in the local area, or coming up, or
we do. In actual fact, we've got about 5 builds, and these are $1 million builds. And they're not just standard resis. They're $1 million builds, and we've got a duplex in Casino, Lismore, and Ballina in the pipeline at the moment. There's a small development at Wollumbar. There's some stuff happening in Grafton, and we've got a unit development in Coffs Harbour too that's powering ahead at the moment.
And so, how long has Adapt, your company, been going for now?
Yeah, Adapt's been going for about 2 years, a bit over 2 years, about 2.5 years. I first went to a masterclass run by Joseph Knellen at the end of 2017. And that masterclass was a real introduction to us, and we all assumed at that time that it would take off and things would just power ahead. Unfortunately, it's only just now kicked off, which is over 2 years later.
Because it's a bit of a process for you guys, just as much as us trying to get something else out there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, when we talk about build, if we talk about the duplex, and it's a duplex robust, and I'll talk about robust a little bit later on. If we talk about the duplex, there's about 15 or 16 different organisations involved in one build. It's very, very complex. You can't just go out and build it and someone tell
because they've got to be approved by the government, the NDIS, or whatever to do it.
Yep, absolutely. That's got to start. That's where it starts, and then it goes through the construction design, and then you've got the service provision, you've got support coordinators, OTs, council.
So quality controls up there.
Huge,
Yep.
absolutely huge. Yeah, we work under the Quality and Safeguard Commission, and we're audited every year, and it's a very strict auditing process, which is good. It's fantastic because it also weeds out all the cowboys that aren't very good.
Exactly. All those jumping on the government-funded money.
Absolutely, and there's plenty.
Yeah,
there are
scams.
plenty of those.
You mentioned all these builds going through. They sound like new projects. When I first pitched it, I was thinking of mum and dad have got a special disability needs child at home. They're struggling, and they've got a big lot. They've got like a farm or 1,600 hectares or whatever on their property. They can put another building on their own property. Is that works as well? Or?
So under the rules, the family home can't be the disability accommodation, but you can have a secondary dwelling on the property, and as long as it's got its own separate title, that's fine. And we do have it's interesting you say that. There's a lot of people, elderly mums and dads, with sons and daughters who have a disability.
They're 20, they're 30, they're 40 years old kids.
Plus,
Plus,
you know, we're talking 40, 50-year-olds who are a little bit lost and don't know what to do, and they're starting to sort of get a bit worried. And as I said, we come in and try to find a solution.
And we deal with some people with disabilities here with the training and stuff in our other business there too, Dave, Al, and with this NDIS thing, is it for these people that it's not going to ruin anything else in their lives or anything? It's just a complicated process to get their house, isn't it? To get them into a dwelling or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. So you've got service provision and the organisations who provide service to participants, and then you've got housing. They have to be separate entities, totally separate things. And so what we want to see happen with SDA is that someone find a forever home, and if they require service in there, as I said, we're separate. But there is that service provision, so we do have to work together. However, they are separate entities.
Okay.
Different funding as well.
Different funding. Well, they're all funded under the NDIS. But then you've got core supports, and then or support independent living, and then you've got SDA, which is different. So it all comes under the NDIS, but they are funded a bit differently.
And for the housing side of things, do they have to have special disabilities or a certain level of disability to be eligible for that funding?
Yeah, a couple of key phrases. So extreme functional impairment or very high support needs are the two key phrases. So we're talking accessible housing, maybe someone in a wheelchair, and if we're talking very high support needs, it might be someone with an intellectual disability, as well as maybe someone with psychosocial issues as well and behavioural problems.
And if go back to mum and dad's case, if they've got a child that meets those eligibilities, they're out of pocket. How does that affect mum and dad? How do they go about doing that?
No, it's all paid for by the NDIS.
Right.
So when they go in for their planning meeting, and they have to recognise that housing is an issue that they need to explore, and then some additional funds goes into their account to explore that housing solution. And so it's about 75 hours, or about $8,000 goes towards the OT and the report writer, the support coordinator, to write that housing solution report. And at no stage at all the mum and dads or participants fund it out of their own pocket.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go through like a case scenario myself. Like say mum and dad's got a child, they're 40, 50 years old. Mum and dad are in their 70s, 80s. They're thinking about what's going to happen in the future with their
Likely
children.
Scenario, absolutely.
The house that they're living at the moment, where mum and dad looks after their child, is not adequate. There's not railings, there's not ramps. So they're going to try and get funding to get a brand new house maybe built. That's
has
suitable.
to be brand new, so it's got to be constructed after April 1st, 2016.
Right. Yep. So they'll be specially built for their child
Yep.
with accesses, ramps, wheels, massive showers, toilets, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
They get them established in that, so they've got peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other funding from the NDS comes in, which is the carers that come in and look after them. That sort of. So that's how it all. That's the
Sounds like you
perfect
my job,
world.
Al.
That's a perfect world where it
That's
all comes together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's exactly as you
So I guess where
explained.
mums and dads get stuck to where do I start, what do I do? Because I think there's a lot of them at that tether where this has been in place where their kids are growing up now, they're getting older and they're getting worried, what do I do? Because a lot of the kids will outgrow their mums and dads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't know where to go, what to do, and that's where this whole, I suppose, what's taken 2 years to get off the run, because the government, which is so great and gracious for applying this money, but I think getting it out there to the ones that need it is the hardest part. And that's where I suppose you guys come in and do the middle ground and help do the work.
Yep. I mean, as I said, you've explained it really well. And the scenario you're talking about, where elderly parents are living with elderly kids with disabilities, is quite prominent.
Yeah.
You've also got, and I refer to them as participants, is what the NDIS wants to do. Participants are also coming out of hospitals and rehab centres as well, also requiring housing. The issue has been people are starting to understand it, but they don't know what the solution is. And there are organisations like Adapt who are able to provide the solution. Yeah. And once I think families realise that there is that transition from home to SDA, is that they'll start to pursue it and learn more about it.
Yeah.
Is there a certain age that they have to be a participant to get into their own?
18. Yeah.
So 18. So that's
we've got a
Yeah.
young girl in Grafton at the moment that's going through the process getting SDA approval. And her family have requested that she live with another person who's only 16, and so the NDIS at this stage are exploring about finding her approval so that they can move in together at some stage.
Okay, so you can. There is participants that are partners. Is that also something that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lady up in Brisbane at the moment. Actually, there's two particular cases. There's a lady in a wheelchair that has SDA approval in her plan. She's got a husband, and so they have to move into a duplex. And so the duplex has 3 bedrooms, one for her. We have to provide a room for her husband as well, even though that he might reside in the same bedroom, but we have to provide a room. And there's also a thing called on-site overnight accommodation, which is the carer's room basically. Yeah. And all our builds have got that. And there's another lady that's going into a unit we've got in Chermside in Brisbane North, and she has a 14-year-old daughter, but she suffers from MS, and she's been approved for SDA as well.
So there's some big things happening with that now. When are we talking these builds? Are we talking, are they just like 3 bedrooms, are they 4 bedrooms, and what sort of things go into them? You know, I know we talk a lot, and you're talking earlier on. There was furniture has to be certain weights, and there's so many. It's just not build a house.
Yeah,
it's not as simple as that. There's a lot of big things. So
there's in the rules there are funding for apartments, duplexes, townhouses, small houses, and group homes. We're not really interested in the group homes. We know that people these days, in particular the millennials 18 to 35s, want to live by themselves. They're the ones that are driving hard, and so we need to provide accommodation, apartments and townhouses for one person to live in a place. So you've got apartments, duplexes and townhouses, but then you've got 4 different categories. You've got improved livability, fully accessible, robust, and then high physical support. So there are 84 different combinations, and we've got to try and provide a solution that fits in with those 84 different combinations.
It's massive, isn't it? Yep. The thing that's come to my mind then, so we've got the solutions sort of thing. Now I suppose the other thing would be land and builders that want to get involved in this, I guess.
Yeah.
The other part of it?
Yeah, so we represent the investor as well.
Yep.
And the only way that we can get these houses built is through investment, and we've got the capital to be able to do that. And that's where the issue has been, is that like a standard duplex is probably, in Lismore might be $650,000, $700,000 for a duplex. These SDA duplexes are probably $800,000-900,000.
Yeah.
So they're very expensive. They are
because they're specialist. They're specialist stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely, and they can go anywhere from larger bedrooms. Every room's got an ensuite, ceiling hoists, assistive technology, to our robust designs. As I said, our robust is for
You touched
mental
that because you've
health.
got two designs with your company, haven't you?
Yeah.
Robust and something else.
Yeah, so we've
Accessible
got,
and robust, yeah.
we can do accessible houses for fully accessible and high physical support, and as I said, you've got to have wider doorways, wider hallways, all ramps. You can't have a lip over 5 mil,
Yeah.
and as I said, we're audited very carefully, and we have an accessible assessor in the north of Brisbane that provides us with those details. But robust housing is very, very difficult and very expensive. Robust, as I said, is for behavioural issues and psychosocial problems.
Yep.
And concrete fibrous walls, laminated windows, bolted down furniture, enclosed kitchens, safety features for staff as well.
Yep.
And it's
Like a safety room.
yeah, and
Yep.
it's double the price of
Yep.
a normal build.
So is that mean?
A duplex in Lismore would probably be a bit over $1 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's needed. But the thing is, there are clients out there that have behavioural psychological issues, but still
Want to live like a
live by
normal person.
themselves.
Yeah.
Correct, absolutely.
and they'll have moments where they're fine, and all of a sudden something will snap, and then they'll become aggressive or whatever. And that's fine. It's not their fault, but
Yep.
they're still allowed to have that housing and that quality of life and that stuff. And,
That's exactly
and you
right.
guys provide that for both, which
Yep.
is good. But and although it's $1 million build, the government's still helping fund that.
So for the investor, if I put my investor's hat on, and
And that's
that
exciting too, because this is the other part. Like where, in a way, you're doing two things. You're supplying, you're fixing an issue, right? We've identified a problem. We're fixing an issue, and now we've got other people that can fix the issue, and they can actually benefit as well. So these people clients are getting accommodation, quality of life, living by themselves, and a person like myself or Adam can invest, and we can actually make money as well, which is.
Yep.
I've got no drama with that.
Yep.
Like we're providing a service.
That's why the system was set off, and ADAPT sort of sit in the middle of that. So we represent the SIL provider, the person who provides support, and the organisation. We represent the investor, someone who wants to invest in it, and we also, in particular, represent the participant who needs that forever home.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. It all needs to come together for it to work, and there are investors out there just looking for a good return. It's a high return, but there is high risk.
5 to 10% return. Is that right?
No, it's the NDIS has identified about 11.6% return is about average.
That's
Which is good.
That's real good.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than the bank.
And it's a bit rest.
So if we talk about
clients
a $1 million build, then it could generate about $120,000 worth of income for the investor. But again, the participant
Is that
has
annually?
it forever.
110.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it goes. It's a 20-year scheme, so it goes
Yep.
for 20 years.
Yep. Wow.
Mm.
So, your team's based in Brisbane. I know you're a local guy.
Yep.
Now we'll probably just quickly would touch on how you got started on this.
Yeah, well, I don't come out of the business world or a commercial world. I come out of education, and I was a head teacher, principal of a special school and a support unit locally in northern New South Wales, and have a bit of a passion for working with people with disabilities. And ADAPT kicked off, as I said, a couple of years ago, and they've asked me to come on board and run the company because of my understanding of the disability sector.
Yeah.
ADAPT came from another organisation called AMC. AMC it does all the compliance work and management work for affordable housing NRES scheme, and we manage the compliance for about 2,900 dwellings under NRES, and which is about $1.4 billion worth of property. So it's exciting, and so we've basically leveraged off AMC to kick off ADAPT.
Now there's a lot of businesses in town that help disabilities and stuff like that. You work close with them.
Yeah. You've got to have to make it work. You've got to have close relationships with the SIL providers, the people who provide support. You've got to have close relationships with obviously builders as well, and even real estate agents, because land is important. You need to find the right location.
Yeah.
We find that some of our accessible housing can go anywhere, but when we're talking robust, you need to be very selective about where the land is. There's a thing we worry about. It's called residential fatigue, and it's a real concern. And
touch on that. What's that mean?
if we're building a robust house, then you don't want it in the middle of suburbia. We want to try and reduce the amount of neighbours.
Yep.
and that's not just from the participant and the neighbour's perspective. It's also from the participants inside. They don't want to be under a lot of scrutiny because of maybe noise levels.
Yep.
Although robust, there's a level of soundproofing we have to have in there as well. So it's about choosing a block of land maybe that backs onto a reserve.
Yep.
That's a battle axe block. It's choosing the right location, and if we choose the right location and we get the build right, then it's going to be successful for everyone.
Because that would go through the DAs, and that would give the other residents a chance to knock it on their head if they thought it would devalue their homes. Is that where you come from? Or?
Yeah. It's not necessarily
not
initially.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and sadly, there's a bit of stigma attached to the disability sector, and we're trying to overcome that.
Yep.
And
I've seen the houses, and the houses look unreal. They look classy looking houses.
Absolutely, and that was the theory.
It's like a house.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a clue.
So it wouldn't devalue land or the street. It just that would people be aware of the residents.
Yeah.
And that would, like you said, the stigma.
Yeah, there's a little bit of stigma, but we're teaching people and we're training people and we're getting people to understand, what this sector is, and it is exciting. And fortunately, in Australia, most of the population embrace it.
Yep.
And they're excited about it, and they want to be a part of the community, and which was another initiative of the NDIS as well, is for that inclusion model.
Yep.
However, there is a small percentage that do struggle a little bit with the concept. Which
And there always will be, especially in Australia, I think.
I think we're growing too. I think that sector is growing. The disability sector is growing in Australia.
Massive. I think
And
they said it's 28,000, but I think it's really 60-something.
60,000.
It's more.
Yeah.
It's much more.
Yeah. Again, we're still trying to work out the numbers, and they're only assumptions. But the scheme was set up for 28,000. But it is our gut feeling is a lot more than that.
Yeah,
So you're saying it's a 20-year future.
Mhm,
So what happens after 20 years?
So if we talk about a robust build, or if we talk about just a standard fully accessible build, and it generates about $80,000 or $90,000 worth of income for the investor, after 20 years, that 80 or 90 that goes into what we call existing build pricing, and it drops down to about $50,000 or $60,000. It's still a really good investment, and that goes forever.
Okay.
Mm.
Wow.
So it goes beyond 20 years. We're making the assumption that people live longer than 20 years,
Yeah.
and they still need housing.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to make sure that it does go beyond that 20-year period.
So right now, how many builds have you got going? Do you know an estimate?
Yeah, I can't give you a number of builds, but there's probably in the pipeline between Cairns and Newcastle. We've probably got about $50 or $60 million worth of builds in the pipeline.
So if there was a local person listening today around, say, the Northern Rivers, is there places where they could, I suppose on your website you'd be able to see, but where they could go and just drive past and check out a build or a quality build? Or
In Brisbane, yes, that's where we're most mature at the moment, and we've got some houses, and they're specialist houses. We've got unit developments that are starting. We've got in Logan Lee, we've got houses in Chermside. We've got some unit developments in the north of Brisbane. We've actually got some 3 or 4 houses under construction on the Gold Coast as well.
Yep.
And as far as northern New South Wales, we've got land purchased, going through the design.
Yep.
We've got an accessible assessor at the moment also that's working on the designs too to make sure they're right. But we do have participants ready to go into those, and they're just waiting for the build now to happen.
There's one in Coffs Harbour?
So we've got a development about 50 metres away from Park Beach Plaza, and it's a 6-unit development. It's a great design, it's a great build, and we've got several SIL providers wanting to collaborate and partner with us to provide housing.
Now, do you go off like, I don't want to plug anyone, but like a Perry Home type thing? Is there little models of homes where they can pick, or are they all individually crafted and designed? Yeah,
we represent a lot of people. There's a couple of organisations that have put their hand up. Sand Sky Developments, they build in New South Wales and Queensland. Silkwood Homes are good. East Coast Disability Housing. But there's a lot of people understanding it, but before you can go ahead, you've got to get it assessed. Not just with an LHA assessor, but with an accessible assessor as well.
So these guys are guys that are specifically build for that sort of building, or can you just get your local builder and say, hey mate, can you design this? They have to be signed off.
It is specialist, absolutely. I mean, you've got hoists and and climate controlled, laminated windows and concrete fibrous walls. It's a real specialist build. But in saying that, the rules that have come from the NDIS are very strict, and the guidelines are quite good.
Yeah, but say you've got Joe Bloggs, he's a builder, he wants to get into this. It's a big process, isn't it?
It's
for
a
him?
huge, yeah, absolutely.
It's not just
For him to be qualified to do it, he'd have to jump all sorts of fences to do that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, although it all
Mm.
comes to the accessible assessor, and as I said, we use a guy in the north of Brisbane who helped write the rules.
Yep.
And he has a look at a plan. He'll look at it prior to construction, during construction, and then he'll sign off at the end of it.
Okay. And there's probably only a handful of those guys in the whole of Australia, would there?
Yeah, I mean anyone can build it, but you've got to understand the rules and the guidelines. So it is a long process.
No, but the guy that signs it off,
Yep.
there'd be a handful of those guys.
Yeah, they're not many.
No,
They're not many, absolutely. No, there are more coming through, but the guy we use is very good. He's very commercial, and he helped write the rules for the NDIS. So we use him all the time.
Yeah, he sounds like the ace.
Yeah, he's good.
Now, does land or geography upset it, like maybe for an accessible house, for our area here, back of Kyogle, that sort of, it doesn't really matter where they go, where they're built.
We're not going to go and build a place out the back of Kyogle if there's no one there.
Right. But if the client wants to live there?
Absolutely. We will build anywhere.
Yeah.
We will build what you want, where you want.
Yeah.
Is the key, because we know that these are forever homes. If we're building a specialist home for someone with a disability, then it's built specifically for them.
Which is good, isn't it? Because these guys, they've got a disability, that's it. But they're just normal people who want to live a normal life where they want, which is really
they might
cool.
have grown up in Drake.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how cool is
different
that?
places and stuff, and
Yeah.
they don't really want to move to Coffs Harbour or Lismore or something. Yeah, they want to
So it's interesting
know,
because it's a lot easier to build a place in Casino and Kyogle when a block of land is 160,000.
Yeah.
When you're paying 560 for a block of land in Brisbane North,
Yeah.
it becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I thought it'd be a lot easier,
Yeah.
and as a investor, the return would be better. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
but you've also got to make sure that the participant is there prior.
Yeah.
Is that something that you keep in mind when you're talking to an investor about such things as that? Hey, like I know, it's $120,000 for the block of land, and it's going to cost you $600,000. Is that something you keep in mind for an investor, saying?
Yeah, our business
thought about
development team take care of that.
Yeah.
My job, my specific role as CEO of Adapt Housing, is to make sure that the participant is really well looked after in this process. We need to make sure that their specific needs are there, and we need to make sure the location's right, and they've also got service provision with a service provider in there as well. So that's my role, is to support the SIL provider and the participants in this process.
So you're really hands-on, Dave.
Yeah,
So you're like CEO, but you're still getting in the trenches, so to speak, and you're with the people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's where my background in the disability sector comes into it.
In education.
In education, and I can sort of connect with families and advocacy groups and SIL providers, and they understand my background. They know that I've been in it for 28 years, and I'm pretty passionate about it. But again, we also represent the investor, and our business development team takes care of that.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think it's a beautiful sort of, what do you want to call it?
Synergy.
Yes, that's the word.
That's the word.
Yeah. And it's how it should work. Like,
Well, that's and SDA was set up to support participants and give them choice and control. And I haven't used that phrase, but it's a key phrase. And we've gone away from group homes, and now to participants having choice and control about where they want to live and how they want to live.
Well, group home,
and it
it
is such a
takes me
good
back to where
It's
the
like
participants feel like they've got a
Stone Age.
disability,
Yeah.
being looked after and being modified. They want to be individuals. They've got individual personalities. They want their own things and that. And why not?
It's about changing the environment in which people live. And if we take someone that's living in a group home, shared resources and shared services, and sometimes you get a little bit lost. But under this new choice and control about someone moving into a one-bedroom duplex or a duplex for one person or even an apartment, it's about having your environment work for you. And if you require a hoist or some sort of assistive technology in there, that it can be specifically guided for you. And so it might reduce the amount of people who are working in there, but it's building independence. which is again another positive. So we're changing the environment to suit the participants.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there for more employment too, which is a big thing, and especially for us here in the Northern Rivers, for that employment, which is really good. As I said, we have the gym there, and we work with some people with disabilities, and their employers are with there. We've got friends that look after some people with disabilities, so it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It'll be great for that.
We'll touch on it too. Like the internet doesn't phase it. That's a thing. Like it can't be replaced by online presence.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's high touch. So
Yeah.
the thing is, that's where the employment comes in, and that's where people in the local areas got to start realising you've got to start looking at other avenues of making money. And if you're a young person now thinking of what you want to do for a future career, if you can diverse into that sort of caring role where you can get involved in that, because that industry is never going to go away. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And they probably need more specialised people that know what they're doing to do that sort of stuff. So if you guys are thinking 20 years in the future for housing, that market's going to be around forever. Like, and the thing is, you said it starts with 28,000, but it's probably 60 and 70. There's more out there. And like you said, the people that we coach at the moment, that sector where it's not the housing sector, it's what's the other sector you said?
Supported independent living still.
That is massive as well. That is so big that people don't realise how big that is. Just in our area, just in Lismore alone, not including Ballina, Corrigai, Casino, it is massive. And that's still untouched. That segment, that industry could grow much bigger already as well. So
I think there's going to be a shortage of
definitely
people being able to provide support.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's an easy job either.
No, it's not an easy job, but if you're passionate like Dave is, if you're passionate in that sort of sector and industry and wanted to find something where you're not going to get replaced by a computer, the internet, online presence, that would be the avenue I'd be going in, because it's getting massive at the moment. Yeah.
So one duplex, for example, if we think about one unit, it might generate for SDA around about probably $40,000 to $50,000 worth of income for the investor. The SIL provision for that one person, on average, is about $290,000 a year. So and so one build, it might involve 10 to 15 people, and time on, time off, all that sort of stuff. So there is a huge spin-off. So we're not only supporting the building industry, and the land component as well. It is the service provision, and of course the SDA stuff, and the people who win in the end are the participants.
And the more you build, the more providers are going to provide and come up with. So there's other companies that will evolve and grow, and they'll need to put on more people.
I think the NDIS is the fastest growing industry at the moment in Australia.
I think it's just no one understands it. No one has to get into it. Like I think it's.
They know the word NDIS, but they don't know what it's about.
But where do I start? Who do I start? Who would I see? If I need service or do I need housing, where do I go? It's just I think it's a big minefield, and just typically government, the way they do it, it's not the most easiest way to get involved in stuff.
The transfer and the changeover from the old to new has been fairly complex as well. And housing in particular was put on a back burner because they were trying to work out all the other components of the NDIS. And we talk about community access, occupational therapy, transport. And the rules change all the time. And so the housing sector was put on the back burner until they tried to work out. And some organisations have fallen over. There was an organisation at the Gold Coast that was that probably about a $30-40 million turnover. They folded in the last 18 months. Just because they couldn't cope.
There's a Royal Commission at the moment to make it easier, isn't it, for NDIS? Is that correct?
Yeah,
or is that
it
over?
is.
Or is it
No, the Royal Commission is still going on. However, it's more about care. In making sure that the care provision and the SIL provision is adequate.
Because there has been an issue with that.
Abuse, absolutely, and
it's probably a whole another issue. That one probably don't go in there.
It's certainly complex.
Well, I knew there was an NDIS Royal Commission in regards to making the funds easier. Is that true?
Yeah, it's starting to open up. They're always changing, but they change the rules every month. For us, like we've got our accessible assessor who does a great job. But last month they changed the rules and said now it's got to be a Class 3 building, and if you've got on-site overnight accommodation, you have to have sprinklers. And sprinklers in a SDA residence is about $40,000. So
there's another industry there too.
Yeah.
But what I love about your company or the company you work with, it's one-stop shop. So if I want to do it, I go straight to you,
Yep.
and you implement everything, get it all running. So it's stress free, and that's the way it needs to be for the housing side of things and the what's the other one? Silk, yeah.
Supported independent living.
It's got to be the same way, I think, but that's where it comes unstuck. So that's where I really love what you guys are doing at Adapt, where it's a one-stop shop. I come in, I say, look, I want to do this. You assess it, yes or no, pretty much. I can do it. Then you run with the ball and basically do it all. So
Yeah.
that's how it should be.
Absolutely. We sit in the middle,
Yeah.
and we don't do the approvals, we don't do the builds, we don't buy the land.
But you talk me through it, you help me through it.
Absolutely.
Like you hold my
And it's
hand
the-
all the way through.
It's
Yeah.
the connections
Yeah.
we've got. So the project manager will do that, the SIL provider will do that, the support coordinator will do
But I
the
don't need
IT
you
will
doing
do
a
that.
phone call to him,
Yeah.
an email to him. It's just there.
We
Yeah.
can direct you. We've been in it, and we've established really good relationships over the last 2 years, and we can direct you to the best there is.
And like you said, the rules change. I don't need to worry about that. You guys worry about the rules
Yeah.
and how it changes and how it adapts to me. You just advise me. It's got to be this way.
Yeah. We do sit in the middle, and I like it. We're a one-stop shop. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And we provide the solution in the end.
Yes.
So just quickly, say I'm an investor.
Mhm.
Do I call you and say, hey?
You call Adapt, and it'll go
Yeah.
to the business development team, and they'll talk you through that.
Yeah.
At the moment, the investment group that we're working through, potentially we're working with some organisations who can provide a 30-unit development in Brisbane to a small 2-bedroom plus on-site overnight accommodation in a regional location. So there's a huge market in between. But yeah, we'll send that to the business development team, and they'll talk you through it if you want to be an investor.
Yeah. And so how many? And then so that's the investment side. So say I'm a mum or dad that has a high disability child and want to get them into a house. A person.
Yep.
And want to get them into a house. So do I call Adapt or?
Yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
start with them.
And you normally go through your local area coordinator, the LACs, to identify a housing solution. And at the moment, not a lot of solutions exist. And then they'll start to explore. Hopefully, they'll come to Adapt, and we can direct them towards the approval, getting SDA in your plan, finding a location, doing the design and build, finding a SIL provider to provide support, and then eventually, probably 9 or 10 months down the track. It does take a long time.
I was going to ask you what's the time frame from starting
Yeah,
out?
it's probably around about 9 or 10 months. It's about during build
That's still
time.
alright, though, isn't it?
And it's going to be forever home. It's about.
So you still got all those
doing
little
sort of
things. I want
pre-planning.
this coloured bench top. I want these coloured walls. That's their choice as well.
Absolutely. And if we're specifically building for someone, we've got a client in Casino that in a robust build that just wants a bathtub. Fine, easy to do.
Okay.
That's his specific requirements. He just wants a bathtub.
So with those robust builds, when we were talking there, like weight of furniture has to be a certain weight of furniture. Is that then become your choice, or they choose the furniture, or you give them?
Yeah,
plans?
we only provide furniture for the robust builds.
Yeah, okay.
And it is bolted down.
Yep.
Or it's we're trying to get hold of some furniture at the moment called Rhino furniture, whereas one chair, it's soft moulded chair, weighs about 60 kilos.
Wow.
You can't pick it up. Well, you can't pick it up off the
But it's soft, cushiony material.
So yeah, absolutely. And so it's about making sure the environment supports the participant themselves.
Yep. So I apologise for that siren in the
Yeah,
background.
in the background. It's the first time
Yeah.
it's the first time we've heard that come through the microphone. Now, probably listeners don't know, David's actually my brother-in-law, so we talk about this quite a bit. And I've actually lived at David's in a wheelchair. Your first experience was with basically me with a disability home out the back.
Yeah, as far as housing goes, it was an opportunity. As I said, Adam's done a couple of stints in wheelchairs over the last, what is it, Al? You know him well too, probably 5 or 10 years. Yeah. And the last stint you did in a wheelchair, we needed to get you out of Brighton Rehab Centre. Is that what's called?
Yeah, it was Brighton.
Ballina.
Ballina and Brighton.
Yeah.
And so what we decided, what Tiff and I, Adam's brother, decided to do was to go, how do we get Adam out? And we'll build a disability, I guess, room out the back of our place. It's got nothing to do with SDA though, I might add, but it was just our first experience a couple of years ago. It's probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, I think it was probably about 4 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we just bought a container, like just a standard container, had it shipped down from Brisbane, got the angle grinder out, and just I'd probably do 3 or 4 hours at night, just working through it until we actually had it up and running. We had the OT come and have a look at it and go, yeah, Adam would suit that, and had to have ramps and do all that sort of stuff. So it was an interesting concept.
Did that sort of plant a seed in the head to look at the NDIS, or
look, I was always
going around that way?
Yeah, I was always passionate about the disability sector, and I love building it. And I've always said I wanted to do a container home, and this was an opportunity for us to be able to do it. I think at that stage I planned on heading towards SDA and the NDIS, but it was just a good insight into what the requirements are. So when it comes to designing something, all I had was a shipping container, but just understanding what the specific needs are for someone in a wheelchair. Ramps only have 7 degree slope, and special sinks and all that sort of stuff. It was interesting. It was fun. But again, it's got nothing to do with SDA. It was just a little bit of an insight into providing accommodation for someone who needed it for a short period of time. And at that time, we thought that you were going to be in it for about 6 or 7 years, but you defied the odds, and I think it was 10 or 11 months, and he was
quick
walking again. Yeah, it's pretty
But it
good.
just shows the inside of you, the man, I suppose, as in the compassion part of it, the empathy part of it, to see what like you said, like the needs of what a person does need. So it's a better angle for you to come at with your clients as the CEO of Adapt. You can relate.
Yeah.
You've been through it, you've done it. Like that's a good thing. And there's a lot of people in the industry that have never been there, have never been involved in that. So their concept might be still really great, and their heart's in the right spot. But you've got you're coming at it at another angle as well. So that's a really good part too, I reckon.
Yeah, no, thanks, Al. I appreciate that. And as I said, I am passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I have been in this sector for 28 years, and now I just get the opportunity to in actual fact, there's probably a good story. There's a young gentleman that I taught when I was at Casino High School, and he was in the unit. I didn't actually teach him, but he was in the unit that I was heading up, and he now is in the process of getting the SDA, and we're actually building a house for him.
Wow.
And so it's been quite a long journey, and I'm working closely with the family again, and we're going to provide something for him that I think is very special.
And how good does that feel?
Yeah, no, it is good.
Yeah.
It's good, and I did talk to my colleagues who were very excited about it as well, and we'll make a big story of it.
Yeah.
I did ask Dad permission to be able to do that. He's still thinking about it.
Yep.
But he knows that it's going to be a forever home for his
But you can
son.
see it in your eyes, like you actually can, when you're telling that story, you can see.
Oh, goosebumps.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
good to know.
incredibly
Like
passionate.
it's hard to picture that on if people listen to this podcast. The way Dave's been talking about it, you can see the passion in his eyes when he talks about it. His heartfelt. People that will watch the video on YouTube will see that. But it's another insight. Like I know it's a business and that's fine, and people are allowed to make money in that. But the end result is amazing in the stories that come out of it, and you must feel so good with some of the stories that you're getting now already. Plus, you're going to get them in the years to come.
Just quickly, are you there to give them the key? Are you part of that?
In actual fact, someone is moving into a house today in Brisbane. But I'm not there though. Someone's moving into a unit.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, that's okay. But as I said, it's taken a long process for this to happen. And this young guy was in a hospital on the south side of Brisbane, and was in an aged care facility.
So he's a young guy.
He's a young guy
facility.
in an aged care facility.
That's the other, So that's another thing you're helping out there. You're getting young guys with young guys. You know?
Well, about 6,500 people in aged care facilities that don't need to be
young
there.
guys.
They're
Girls,
under
young
age
guys.
65.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's another issue, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, so he actually had to move out of that, and the only place he could go was into a rehab or a hospital setting. He didn't like it, and we've been working closely with the organisation, and he's just about to move into a 2-bedroom home with care, all the boxes have been ticked. That's about 50 metres away from Chermside Shopping Centre for him,
Yep.
and so
Wow.
he'll get there on his electric wheelchair.
Yep.
He'll build independence. It's a great solution.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, good on you. Yeah. So, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, we'll wrap up.
But,
Dave,
anything-
before you go though,
Yeah.
I know you guys at Adapt Housing have a Facebook page,
We do.
so people get in contact with there through the message part of it. You also have a website,
Yep.
adapthousing.com.au,
Correct.
where people get in contact with you there, or if not you, but the organisation. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, there's the 1300 to adapt.
Yeah, what's that number?
Is that 1300 to adapt?
Oh,
So 1300 223 maybe,
Yep.
I think it is.
I'll put all that on the show notes and stuff too, so people
Yeah.
can get access to that. So this is
Yep.
this is great. Yeah.
Info@adapt.com.au is we'll get our office.
Yep.
And as I said, we've got people in the office that will direct if it's participant and service provision, it'll come towards me. If it's investment, it'll go towards the property management team and the business management area.
It starts their journey.
Starts the journey. It's a good opportunity, but really the bottom line is that Adapt. Once we're sort of continue down this path, we will build what you want where you want, providing it sort of fits in with the guidelines of SDA.
Unreal.
Mm.
Thanks for coming on. This
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
suits our podcast to a T. Our whole goal is to get people of interest, people we find of interest on the podcast, and on topics that are unique. And this is a big one. Like, I had no idea what it was all about, how it went, but I feel fairly confident. I sort of know what you're doing now. So.
Well, yeah, that's the right question.
Fairly confident.
You knew
Yeah.
what it was, but
Yeah.
it is a growing industry, and as I said, we'd like to be a part of it. Just the Northern Rivers alone, there's the stuff in the pipeline at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've got some great relationships, but as I said, our builds are Cairns to Newcastle at the moment, and looking at South Australia, Western Australia, and Victoria to continue to grow as well.
Wow, unreal.
Mm.
Yep,
Exciting.
stoked.
Thanks
Good.
for the
Alright.
invite.
Signing off.